Coach D, how you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being here again. My fabulous co-host, everybody, Coach D, and I am Imran Nangawala, and this is Walaway Sports. We have some unfortunate news. Mr. Anthony Morrow could not be here today, Coach. If that's
Yes, he
correct.
couldn't be here today. He called me this morning. That's something that he couldn't get out of, but he assured me that he will be on soon, preferably next week. But he'll be on. He assured me of that. So I apologize for that because I was looking forward to having him on. I've known him for so long, and he's always supported me in things that I've done. I don't want to give too much away because I want to wait for the show with him. But again, he says sorry, and he'll definitely be on soon.
Yeah, no problem, and we'll be waiting for Anthony. It was obviously outside of his control, so
Absolutely.
best of wishes to Anthony, and we'll see him hopefully next week.
Yeah, hopefully
So,
next week.
Coach, I think the topic at hand was supposed to be on honing your skills, and with the assumption that younger players who are out there practicing. We had Sugar on a couple weeks ago, former Nets player, and he was talking about we kind of did a little throwback to differences between 80s, 90s basketball and what he's seen today as a former NBA player, and we touched on some key points, and we were going to focus on that with Anthony because he was someone that survived in the league for over 10 years, played for multiple teams. He was a sharpshooter. And you yourself, you've coached at Rutgers Park. You've worked with NBA players. You've worked with youth who aspire to join the NBA. So when we talk about honing your skills to make it to playing in the big league, right, to playing in the NBA or even at a, say Division 1 level, what are some of the first things that come up to your mind when it comes to like honing those skills?
Well, a lot of times as basketball players, before kids used to say, and I emphasize this now, kids used to say, I say, hey, what's up? What do you do? I'm a point guard. I'm a two guard. I'm a three guard. I'm a four. I'm a five. That doesn't happen anymore. Today, what I want to hear is I'm a basketball player. You know why? Because of course, there's a such thing as a point guard, as a two guard, but when you have 7-footers, Dirk Nowitzki shooting threes, Kevin Durant shooting threes, what is he? So we want to get away from saying what you are and just segregate what you are. It's just say you're a basketball player. So in Anthony Morrow's case, honing your skills, Anthony Morrow was a sharpshooter. He was a specialist. Let's go back to Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was a specialist in rebounding. You know, his basketball skills wasn't really there, but he had a career in rebounding the basketball. Same thing with Anthony Morrow. And what I try to teach these kids today and everyone else, nevertheless, is that you have to hone what you do best and do it right. Like a lot of times, a lot of kids or college players or any players come to me and say, Coach, I need 2 weeks of training. I'm going to try out. And for some reason, a lot of times on the tryout, they'll do something out of the ordinary just because, the nerves are running. You need to do what you do best at a tryout because you need to show the coach or coaches why they will take you. Because remember, basketball is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and collectively you get it done. So if Anthony Morrow's a sharpshooter, as a coach, I'm looking at, wow, he can shoot. I got some plays that's going to get me a basket. All right, if it's a defensive specialist, you focus on that. And a lot of times, these kids nowadays want to do a whole lot of things, but if you could focus on what you do best, I think that makes you move forward.
So let's focus in on that 3-point example that you're giving. So
Okay.
obviously, as a fan of the game, when you watch it on TV or on the internet, you find this refined skill. You see Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Morrow knocking down threes. But when did that really start? Like when we talk about honing your skills, when did they start solidifying those skills?
I want to say probably early high school. Because middle school, yes, you some of the stuff is you're still not polished yet. And once you get into high school, I think you start becoming polished as the basketball player on what you can do on the court and what you can't do on the court. And plus, in high school, some of them kids are shaped like grown men. So once you get early high school, you start realizing, wait a minute, this is what I do best. And then you start honing your skills to do that best. And then colleges start looking at you. When we get Anthony on here next week, I'm sure we're going to ask him, when did colleges and everyone start looking at him? And he's probably going to say, I don't even know this. I'm just saying. He's probably going to say, I shot the lights out in some high school state game, and that's what springboarded him to stardom. Because everyone needs that tool or that one go-to person where you know you can get a bucket from. And a lot of times these kids nowadays, they watch all these other players and they try to emulate, these other players. But I think at the same time, you have to work on your personal craft, on what you do best, and do that the best you can.
So then let's focus on some basics then. So maybe that started in high school in terms of you noticing that you have the potential of becoming a good three-point shooter. Right. But now, even at a more fundamental level, what do you notice in terms of the kids who do wind up being successful and the players that do wind up making it big and that you've worked with? What are some of the most basic fundamental things that they're doing from an early age? For example, are they guys who at a grade school or middle school level, they start hitting the weight room, or they not hitting the weight room, doing like push-ups and body squats and crunches at home? And then are these the guys who in the summertime when everybody's just playing video games, they're going to the local rec, center and just, jumping in an open court, refining their skills? What are some of the more basic things that they can even focus on?
Well, I think you have to be a gym rat. Even if you're talented, you have to be a gym rat. It's sort of like anything. If you think about it, basketball is the same thing as if you're a plumber, a doctor, a surgeon. The more times you have surgery on something, I would think that will make you better because of the experience. I think it works the same way. The more times as a lawyer you do certain cases and win them, that's gaining experience. So it works the same way with basketball. The more you are in a situation where you have to hone your skills and make yourself better, the better you're going to get. Even if you're talented, you can't just sit on the couch and just go to practice when needed. You have to go the extra mile and do other things. That's what made Kobe's and everyone else way different. A lot of times, and I know some people that knew Kobe that would say, "Nah, I don't want to hang out with Kobe. He's too boring. All he want to do is basketball." Okay. Would you want to have Kobe Bryant's career? Or so him being boring made him who he was. So it works out that way. Kobe was all about basketball. Everyone else can go do what they want to do, hanging out. Kobe was going to the gym. And Kobe knew what it took. So I try to instill that with the kids and the youth coming up today where, and it can't be Coach D or Imran who makes him go to the gym. That has to be within. That has to be. I can't make, like a certain thing. You can't teach habit. You can't teach that. That's something that is grown with you. If it's a habit to go to the gym, then that's a habit. I can't say to you, if I have to tell you to go to the gym, then you're not really doing what you have to do. So I think it starts with middle school and it starts with the desire to want it yourself.
So, okay, one, you mentioned the desire. Two, you mentioned becoming gym rats in the sense that they're living in the gym like Kobe, always playing and wanting to practice. Mm-hmm. Now, when we tell the kids to stick to the fundamentals, what is it that we exactly mean when we say fundamentals? Do we mean practice your footwork? Do we mean practice the way you catch and shoot? What is meant by the fundamentals?
Let's give an example. We was on shooting, fundamentals. Everyone, shooters know fundamentals. When you shoot the ball, I wish I had a ball. When you shoot the ball with your fingertips. You don't palm the ball when you shoot it. Those are straight fundamentals. Your elbows in, your elbows parallel to the basket. Those are fundamentals that you have to have. You can't shoot with your elbow out. That's just physically impossible for the basket to go in. Those are straight fundamentals. Work on those things. Work on squaring up to the basket. Work on having your shot parallel to the basket. Those are fundamentals. Euro steps and trickery, that comes later. And if you look at some of the videos that's on my Instagram and things that I've trained with the NBA camps and like we met in Chicago at All-Star, I was all about fundamentals. What we did when I met you, we did a straight up 3-man weave layup drill, right? That's all it was. Make the right pass it to the pocket, make the layup, aim for the box. Those are fundamentals that kids need to know before they start doing anything else. And I think that's what made you impressed with what I was doing when I met you in All-Star.
Well, yeah, it did definitely. But why is that so important? So now give us a practical reason in a game. Why would that, for example, that 3-man weave with the layup, passing it at the right point, and then the person who receives the ball either shooting it, driving it, dribbling it, passing it, whatever it may be. Give us a practical reason of why the fundamentals work out in a game time situation.
In a game time situation, fundamentals work out because if you notice, let's say LeBron James now. People love to play with LeBron James because he's fundamentally sound and he makes his teammates better. Meaning, on a 3-man weave, I can guarantee you that LeBron James will not make a bad pass. You know why? because LeBron James' job is to make everyone better. So in a game situation, if someone's coasting to the basket and they go back door with 2 seconds left, LeBron's going to put it right where they need it for the layup. He's not going to make a person go back like that. I always tell people when I'm doing a drill like that where I stop them. If you're passing the ball on a layup and I have to go like this to retrieve the ball, I try to explain to the kids the defense is still coming.
Right.
Even if there's no defense coming. So I like to make it game situation. So I'll stop them right away. If a person makes a pass, we have to adjust in any way. I don't care how athletic you are. I'll tell you a story. When I was working with the Nets, I don't know if anyone remembers Joe Johnson.
Of course.
Great player.
Yeah, of course.
They said, Coach, go work with Joe Johnson. He wants to get some shots up before the playoffs. I was like, all right, no problem. I passed Joe Johnson the ball. One of the passes came this way, and he threw the ball all the way up down the court. I was like, what happened? He said, they pay me to score. I need the ball right here in the pocket. If you can't get it in the pocket, I'll get. And I was like, uh-oh. And I remembered that, not just because it was Joe Johnson. I remembered that wow, he wanted the ball right here so he could just catch and shoot. He wanted the ball right here. So I said, wow. And that's why I always tell the kids and people that I train, the pass, believe it or not, is more important than the shot. It is. The pass is more important than the shot because think about it. If we have 2 seconds left in the game and you pass me a ball and I have to jump up this way to catch it, I'm already wasting time to catch the ball, right? So by the time I come down and set my feet, the buzzer might sound or the defense might recover. So that's why fundamentals are key. And that's why I instill fundamentals, because if you keep going fundamentals, it's embedded in their head and then they won't go another way because it's fundamentals, it's repetition. I'm going to tell you another story. Coach Lloyd Pierce, one of the best coaches in the NBA. He's the head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. And I do coaches clinics with him, and he teaches me a lot about coaching. And I say, Coach, and I asked him, and I hope Coach Pierce is watching. I'm going to blow you up right now, Coach. And I said, Coach Pierce, how do you keep your team motivated? This was last year when Atlanta Hawks was 12-60. I said, Coach Pierce, how do you keep your team motivated when your team is 12-60? Do you know what he said? Repetition and competition.
Wow.
He said, that's what we have to do. Repetition, everything. So even if you lost to the Lakers by 50 and you beat the Grizzlies by 1, the next practice is nothing different. It's repetition and competition. And I never looked at it like that. And coming from Lloyd Pierce, I'm going to believe him because I trust everything he says about basketball.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sometimes when you watch some of these NBA teams that tank on purpose, and some of them that are competitively losing in the sense that maybe they don't have the talent and they're under 500, but they compete, right? And throughout the years, we've always had those teams, that, okay, that team is going to be a hard out.
Right.
But I find it interesting because if they, like you said, repetition and what did you say?
Competition and repetition.
If you keep repeating what you're working on and stick to the fundamentals, when you do acquire that talent or you draft that high pick, and now you got the talent added, stick to the fundamentals, and you're going to – because I remember, for example, the Bulls, they had Scott Skiles, and then I think they got rid of Scott Skiles, and they got Vinny Del Negro, and then after Vinny Del Negro is when they got Tom Thibodeau.
Okay.
But when they started getting those draft picks, right, you see that from the time of Scott Skiles, they had that hard-nosed, we're going to play hard defense, stick to the basics. But then eventually when they got a Joakim Noah and they got a Carlos Boozer and a Derrick Rose and all these guys, sticking to that repetition, sticking to that hard, gritty defense, they were able to do a lot more with that when they acquired the talent.
Yeah.
So you gotta go.
No.
Okay. So then, we mentioned being a gym rat. We talked about the fundamentals. You said that the desire has to be there. What about now? What have you noticed when you work with, say, middle schoolers and high schoolers? Some of the kids who during practice. Go ahead.
Who that was?
Who was that?
Albert King.
Okay.
But it's too late. I just wanted to ask him if he played with Drazen Petrovic. Okay, but
yeah, we're gonna have to do a breakdown of Drazen one day because he fits to what we're speaking about right now, right? You can tell not the most athletically gifted. He couldn't rise above the rim,
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching some clips of him every time he battled against Michael Jordan, all the different games.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have like anywhere from like 16 to 20 something points against MJ. And he would force like MJ to turn it over. He would steal from him just based on knowing where to plant your feet, knowing when to come around and, try to swipe at the ball, and very smart, fundamentally sound players. So
And say something about the Kobe's, the LeBrons, and the Michaels. Players like Drazen Petrovic, Anthony Morrow, Dennis Rodman, the Kobe's, the LeBrons, and Michaels,
they love them.
Those players.
Yep.
One, probably because they're one of the greatest, but they weren't. Michael wasn't a better rebounder than Rodman.
Right.
Kobe wasn't a better jump shooter than Anthony Morrow. He wasn't. Kobe could shoot. Don't get me wrong, but
right.
and they respected and loved that about them because they knew that they what's the word? They perfected their craft. And Kobe, LeBron, and Mike can appreciate that about a player. Even if they're in the league just for that, players like that, you gain their respect because, that's one of the things. And also, too, what I noticed about dealing with certain NBA players, if scouting reports, you would think that the average person wouldn't think that Kobe, Michael, LeBron don't even scout the other team. That's not true.
Of course they do, yeah.
That's not true. If Kobe's playing against Anthony Morrow, he's going to get up on that jump shot. And that would make Anthony Morrow say, wow, you really care that I can shoot? Because you're Kobe Bryant. But the one thing about them, too, they're historians of the game. And they study the game. They'll like the other day, I seen the clip with LeBron. Who was it? It was Wood, the guy from Houston. And LeBron was telling everyone, watch him. He was at the line. He can get at you. And Wood was so elated that, wow, LeBron James knows about my game because he studies the game and he respects the players that know their limits and know their craft and respect their craft.
So the next question I wanted to ask you was, so when you have, like, for example, young players and say at the middle school or high school level, and sometimes you realize that during practice they're killing people or they know how to play the game, but then sometimes the beast doesn't come out during the actual game and there's some hesitancy. I mean, what do you normally find is going on in that situation?
We have this thing that we used to say at Rucker Park, the lights is on. When the lights are on, that's going to show who you are. That's the thing that we used to say at Rucker Park. And what I would say to kids nowadays, whether you're playing in your room, whether you're playing in the gym by yourself, whether you're playing in practice or you're playing a live game, it's still the game of basketball. And if you do what you do best, it shouldn't matter who's around. That's what it is. It's really the nerves and the hoopla on. It depends on how many you're playing against, but it's really the same thing. And you just have to focus and program your mind to say, if this is what I do. If you, like I said, that's another thing that's good. We could segue into that. It goes right back to fundamentals. Whether you're shooting in front of 1 million people or shooting in front of one person, if you fundamentally sound, shoot it right, it's going to go in.
Right.
So that's really what I promote when I do my training, where just be yourself, number one, have confidence in yourself, and you have to want it. A lot of times I've been coaching for a long time, and I've noticed that I've wanted it more than the players sometimes. And it's like, I couldn't understand how I can get them to want it for me, because I know what it's like for them not to make it. So I don't want them to go not make it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times I wanted it more, and I was trying to figure out how can I want him to want it, because that's really what counts.
But do you just feel like some people are natural born killers and others are not? Or do you feel like this is something you can work on to become more like an assassin, more like a hitman, where you get in that game, all emotions are out, all friendships are out, and you know that your singular purpose is out to like seek and destroy while you're on the court? Because
I think you're born with that. And let me tell you why. They said Michael Jordan, he can't lose to you in Monopoly. Like, really? So what if you lose a game in Monopoly? You're not taught that. Michael Jordan does not like to lose. Kobe Bryant does not like to lose. LeBron James does not like to lose. But I kind of think that, not to take that away from LeBron, but I kind of think that LeBron, not that he can accept losing more, because I doubt he can, but I think that LeBron's a little more not as rigid, if you will, as Mike and Kobe.
I agree.
You agree, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think he's not as rigid. Like Mike, like LeBron's like, all right, Kobe and him, like he won't talk to you for a week, and Mike, they're different. And I think you're born with that. I think if we spoke to their parents, I think all of their parents, with all the documentaries we've done seen, probably said that they were like that as soon as they came out. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. So
I think you're born with it. I think you can get that killer instinct from losing and get tired of losing, and knowing that if you have all the skill sets in the world, and lose, I think that you can get that, but I don't think that you can obtain such a killer instinct if it's not within. I don't think so. I could be wrong.
It seems like
I don't. I've been around the game a lot. I don't think that you could just wake up and say I have the killer instinct like Michael Jordan. I don't think you can do that.
It seems like it's from some trauma also in life, whether it's big or small trauma. But Michael Jordan, from watching the documentary, he had not issues with his dad, but his dad used to kind of be harsh on him in the sense that his dad it seemed like he favored his older brother a little bit more. So Mike felt that competition, or he felt that need for attention. Scotty, while he didn't have the same situation, but Scotty had like 10 brothers and sisters.
And he had to take care of all of them.
He had to take care of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis came from like a broken home where he was living in different places, doing whatnot. So like the court was the place where he could kind of take out all his energy. And Kobe, I mean, I haven't really looked into Kobe so much. I know he grew up in Italy for some time, but I'm sure having a father who played in the NBA and then played professionally in Italy, which is also, relatively speaking, which was a good league internationally. I'm sure he had some hunger to be better than his dad, or to be at least like his dad.
Absolutely. But I think it's born. But you're born with that. I don't think that you can just, I don't think there's a pamphlet or a brochure that you can read to get that killer instinct. I don't believe that.
Cool, Coach. I think this is good. We are at about the 25-minute mark. And I'll give you the final words. And ladies and gentlemen, I know we were supposed to have Mr. Morrow on today, but he did apologize, and he's going to try to make it in the future, hopefully next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for listening and attending. And Coach D and I plan on being on every week. But Coach, did you want to close us out with anything, any advice?
Yeah, I just want to close out with, stick with us. We have something good going on here. We've had some previous WNBA retired player, and a retired NBA player. So we got the buzz going. And unfortunately, Anthony Morrow couldn't make it today, but he's come through for me in the past, and I'm not worried about us having Anthony Morrow on here next week.
All right, awesome. Good to know. Coach, just stick around for a second. Guys, thank you for attending today, and we'll see you all next week.
Okay, see you next week.